When I told my family that I was going to do window treatments, they looked at me like I had three heads. They're
Yeah,
like, "What? You're going to do what? Like, don't you just go to JCPenney back then and just get your curtains from the box or the bag?"
right,
Which is what I had in my house.
right.
Welcome to No Strings Attached, the place where we untangle honest conversations about business, reinvention, and the pursuit of the American dream. Hosted by Roger Megalis, Brazilian born, Boston bred, Florida based. He is an entrepreneur, speaker, and storyteller with 20 years of real stories, laughs, and screw ups. This show is for anyone still searching for their place under the sun. So pull up a chair. The show is about to start. Here's Roger with no strings attached.
Vita, thanks for coming on the show. I really appreciate you. I know you for a long time. You're big in the industry. So, for the
Thank you.
ones
Thank
that
you.
never heard of you or they are from a different industry, can you give us an introduction? Tell who you are, what you do, where you're coming from?
For sure, for sure. So my name is Vitalia Vygovska. I am the Vita in the Vitalia Inc., which is the name of my company. And the full name for that is Vitalia Inc. Custom Luxury Window Treatments. And it's interesting, we just talked about your being in the business for 20 years. I've also been in the business for 20 years.
Is that
In
right?
January of 2026 was my 20-year anniversary. I
Congratulations.
still, thank you. I still remember when I marched into my boss's office and quit my job. It was a corporate job, a seemingly a, a great job on paper because I was a marketing director for Lennox China. I had a window office, I had an expense account, I traveled all over, and anybody who has worked in corporate before who is listening would, I think, totally sympathize and understand when I say my soul was dying a little bit as I was working there. And so over some time, I made the decision to start my own business. And so I still remember the day that I marched into my boss's office and I quit my job. Everybody thought I was crazy. And on January 1st of 2026, I started this business. Back then, it was a shop at home window treatment business.
Hmm.
I went to individual customers' homes and lugged very heavy samples of
Right?
roller shades and shutters and whatnot, and did it out of my 1998 Honda Accord,
Hmm.
which is a tiny little car for our industry with our big books and big samples. And so 20 years later, we are a team of 10 people. I've made a decision to scale my business at a certain point, and we typically work on full home renovations or full home constructions, window treatments for that entire house. We work exclusively to the trade, meaning that it's either interior designer, architect, developer, builder. I have a workroom component to my business now. So we are we're blessed to work on amazing projects from the New Hampshire area where Roger, you and I work together,
Yes, I remember that.
down to Palm Beach and Pittsburgh and Virginia. We just did a project. It's 2 hours south of Atlanta. Was a hospitality boutique hospitality project. So very blessed to have come some way over the last 20 years,
That's
all in
great.
this wonderful industry of custom window treatments, which I think is highly underrated. It's a gem. It's one of those industries that I feel like nobody knows about. It's a well-kept secret, but
Isn't
anybody who
that the
makes
truth?
it, it's amazing. Yes.
Everybody that we talk to, well, nobody knows this is an industry, myself included. So,
Yeah, yeah. When I told my family that I was going to do window treatments, they looked at me like I had three heads. They're like, "What? You're going to do what? Like, don't you just go to JCPenney back then and just get your curtains from the box or the bag?"
right,
Which is what I had in my house.
right, right.
Yeah, yeah.
So, why did you pick window treatments? What was the spark? How did you come
Yeah.
with that ideas? Since nobody knows this is an industry, how the heck did you? Oh, I'm gonna do window treatments. How did it came
Right.
about?
Right, right. So, yes, excellent question because I honestly didn't know what I was getting myself into. So, it was partially a business decision and partially a happy accident.
Okay.
So, the interesting sort of the business part of it is being at corporate wasn't all completely a waste of time. There were
Hmm.
a lot of things now in, of course, hindsight is 2020 and retrospect. Now I know that I learned a lot there. And part of it was what made me decide on the kind of business or any business rather that I wanted to have. And that any business I knew needed to be sustainable and needed to be profitable. So, being the marketing director for a vertical within the Lennox Corporation, I was managing multi-million dollar P&Ls and product launches and customer service and sales. And so, a lot of different departments and tasks and roles within that vertical. So, I understood a lot of the financials and I understood a lot about running a business, not your own business, which is very different from running a corporate business, but it provided a really good platform having run that vertical. So I knew that when I went out on my own, I wanted it to be profitable. I wanted it to have good margins. So I knew all about margins and markups and a lot of the financial aspects that I know some folks really struggle with. And I also understood from the marketing standpoint, because I have been a student of marketing prior to starting the business, that it's important to have an easy barrier to entry. So rather almost no barrier to entry. If you think about anybody can be a window treatment specialist. We don't need to pass big tests necessarily. We don't need to be NCIDQ certified. We don't need to go to medical school. I mean, yes, there's certainly certifications and that's great. And I'm all about education, but technically, I mean, anybody could do it, right? So there's very easy barrier to entry.
I joke with
And
the installers, if you want to be an installer, you just need to go to Home Depot, buy a drill, and buy a three-step
exactly,
stool. You're already in
ex-
business.
that's exactly right, right. And at the same time, while it's easy to enter, it's very difficult to stay in it. And we know that this industry gets very technical very fast. And you really need to know what you're doing because if you don't know, you start making mistakes. And those mistakes are very expensive. So
Very
if you didn't
expensive.
understand the margins to begin with and how to protect yourself on the financial level, those mistakes can really put you out of business. So, so it was sort of understanding those two things. Now, the first thing was by design. I knew financials. The second thing was by accident. I didn't know anything about window treatments. And I was just looking for an opportunity, Roger, opportunity to do something of my own because I was fed up, honestly, with corporate and the politics and the wastefulness of resources and time and productivity. I didn't love how people just stood around the proverbial water cooler and they just complained. And when I would ask them, did you do something about it? Did you talk to so and so? Did you voice your concerns? Did you say that you didn't like it? They really didn't want to do it. It was easier for people to complain than actually take action. And I did not want to live like that. So I started doing research and I researched so many businesses. I looked at, believe it or not, used cardboard box company.
Really?
I did. I looked into opening a gym,
Okay.
like a jazzercise type of a
Uh-huh.
club.
Yeah.
I looked into a vitamin shop and doing that.
Right.
So for me, it wasn't specifically about window treatments. It wasn't even about design. Eventually, I came across a franchise broker who introduced this franchise. Back then, it was called V2K Window Decor. And I flew out to Colorado and met with them. I ultimately decided to invest with them. So invested all of my savings 20
Mm-hmm.
years ago into
Right.
them and went through their training and stayed with them for the first, I think, 2 years, after which I decided that again, I can do this on my own. I can do
Right.
this better.
Right.
I understood enough. And that's kind of how this window treatment industry happened to be what I ultimately ended up doing.
Interesting. So you kind of fill up the Tinder profile, but you didn't know exactly who you're going to date, right?
Yes,
you
and I
you just
swiped
want
right or left,
someone,
whatever it is. I swiped the right way. I found my match. Yes,
right? You went to a blind date. You ended up, find you.
ba bum bum.
Interesting. So you are already head of the game because a lot of people not even know what they want. They just stumble upon the industry because
Mhm.
I sew clothing, so I sew curtains for my own house, and I decide to start making drapes.
Mhm.
Or, I'm the husband. My wife sold shades and want me to install. I became an installer. So
Right.
things that kind of they didn't have much of a clue, myself
Mhm.
included. I was a truck driver. And just having a beer with my cousin, his phone was ringing off the hook. And I said, "What the heck, dude?
Yeah.
You selling drugs or something?" So, "No, man, I'm hanging shades." And I say, "Who the heck hires someone to hang shades?"
Right,
Turns
right.
out to be a business. And I have no
Mhm.
clue. At least you knew the business side of it.
Mhm.
And a lot of
Mhm.
people don't have the idea. I didn't have that idea either. So that already puts you ahead of the game. That's why you have a successful business. So you understand you need to be profitable. You understand the cost of doing something wrong. So once you open your business and you say you already scale, you got multiple people working for you, when did that transition from working alone to scale
Yeah.
came about?
Yeah. So I remember exactly how it happened,
Okay.
actually. It was in 2018. My daughter was about four or so that I got to a certain point revenue wise where it was it was a lot to do and I was very busy. And I went on a lot of appointments, and just like everybody else who's a solopreneur, go on appointments, you do the estimates, you do the production orders if you're in the soft goods business, or you place your orders if you're in a hard goods business. Then you go to installations, you do your own marketing, you go to different networking events, you either do your own bookkeeping or you work with a bookkeeper, but you still have to prepare whatever you need to do, whatever she needs to categorize or classify. You review your financials, you do all the admin things. So as a solopreneur, we wear so many hats. And when your business is, maybe 100,000, 200,000, maybe even 300,000, it is still doable to do it on your own. But when you go beyond those six figures, and when you have a young family like I did back then, I had two children under age of 8, I think at that point, it became a lot. It quite frankly became too much.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember journaling. Actually, I'm a big journaler. That's how I process a lot of information. That's how I express my gratitude towards the universe and ask it for help. And so I remember journaling distinctly in that year saying, I don't want it. God, take it all away, because I became resentful of everything I had because of how busy and stressed out and overwhelmed I felt by
Mm-hmm.
everything.
Yes.
So that was the origin of the whole thought process of, do I scale up or do I scale down? Because the level that I was at was not sustainable from the work-life balance, personal sanity standpoint. And it took, believe it or not, Roger, it took me a couple of years to arrive at a very methodical and intentional decision that I did want to scale ultimately, that I did want to have people on my team, that I did want to move out of my house, that I did want to have a workroom, because back then I outsourced all of the fabrication. And even though now looking back, of course, it proved like a very successful decision. Back then, even talking to some of my coaches and definitely talking to some of my colleagues in the industry, they again thought that I had three heads, just
Mm-hmm.
like when I was quitting my corporate job. People would say, why would you need a workroom? There's plenty of workrooms out there to whom you can outsource your fabrication and still have great margins and not worry about having people on your team and paying them, having W-2s essentially. And why would you want to move out of your house and have a space? Because that's also additional overhead that, and not only is it additional overhead, but you're not going to be able to deduct whatever, house expenses, home expenses we have when we're working home. So there were a lot of downsides to this decision, and there were certainly a lot of naysayers around me.
Yes.
At the end of the day, again, after a lot of soul searching and journaling and thinking about it, I did take the plunge and I got the space and I decided to have my own workroom and I decided to make my first hire and then the second hire. And I decided to write down everything that I had in my head in terms of systems and processes and protocols and procedures and put it down on paper and think through the value system and the mission and the vision and all the things that you have to do when you decide to scale. And so the beginnings of it was 2018, and that's what I did over the next 2 years or so. And now fast forward to whatever year we are now, 26, we are a team of 10 people with a beautiful 2,500 square foot workroom and studio just north of Philadelphia.
Well, congratulations on that.
Thank you.
It sounds wonderful, but I'm sure there's a lot of humps and a lot of things that you didn't account for going through
sure.
all of that. And as you mentioned a minute earlier, you were really resentful of all the growth you have and all the successful you have because now you're working almost 24 hours a day. Your family coming second, and you create this big baby that became a monster. You don't know exactly what to do with that. And I have those conversations all the time because people come very excited. I just started my business, and you start doing well, and the competition don't do as well, so you get more business, and before you know it, you're kind of overwhelmed with so much work that your initial joy becomes a burden. So
That's right.
you're very educated, you found your way, you want to escalate and you want to grow, and you, from your own words, you really did your due diligence and create this whole system. So one thing that I picked for your conversation, you talked to your coaches. So what did the coaches do, and what kind of coaches did you have in case someone listened to our conversation here thinking, I want to consider growing. So should I have a coach first? What would be the next step? What would you tell them?
Well, I would say that having a coach, a business coach, is a great idea regardless of whether you want to scale or whether you want to stay a solopreneur. I've had some sort of business coach probably from the first year that I started.
Okay,
Be
that's
that an
great.
individual one-on-one coach, or it was a group coaching type of program, or it was an intimate, smaller group or a bigger group, or whether it was a mastermind.
Are these
So
people from the same industry? Are they from different industry? Does it matter?
yeah, so when I first started, I had coaches from different industries
Okay.
that weren't specific to window treatments because I wanted to, back then I felt like I just needed to understand the business world in general. And the very first struggle I feel that entrepreneurs have when they first start a business is understanding your self-worth.
Uh-huh.
And
100%.
that comes through in our pricing, and that comes through how we value our time, how we value our work, how much we discount our services, and what kind of courage we have to continue increasing our pricing as we move along? All of those areas questions can be tied to one sort of overarching umbrella, and that is your self-worth. It takes either a long time to understand and realize what you're worth, or if you want to expedite any kind of learning, then you learn from other people.
Right.
Because as much as I hate to admit it, I am not unique, and none of us are all that unique to think that we're the very first ones to go through any kind of business struggle. So with that sort of realization and the thought in the back of my head, I went to the general business coaches first that would help me understand how much I was supposed to charge, how I was supposed to think about my time, and how to value the opportunity cost. Meaning that if I do A, that means that I don't get to do B. And is A more valuable or is B more valuable? And should I be spending my time on activity B that eventually produces more income, more revenue, more satisfaction, and more time than on A activity? And yes, granted, I would save, for example, let's take a very basic example of a bookkeeper. I mean, how many solopreneurs out there doing their own books? A ton, still.
Yes.
And that is, one of the lowest hanging fruit that any entrepreneur can do. Yes, you're saving yourself $30 an hour to $50 an hour. And for sure, every month you may be saving $1,000 to $2,000 doing your books, depending on the level of your business. But those several hours that you're doing that, you're not spending those hours on marketing, on outreach, on networking, on having coffee dates with a potential referral partner, on educating yourself on AI or shutters, whatever it is you and I talked about ahead of the recording. So that's the opportunity cost. So anyway, so that's to answer your original question. Those are the types of coaches that I had in the beginning. And then as I went on and kind of journeyed through the industry, then it became more clear to me that I wanted to learn all those same things, but from someone who really understood the industry. And that's when I hired Luann. So Luann Nagara was a business coach of mine back then as well. And then as I continued journeying and I wanted to be more productive with my time, I hired Amber De La Garza, who was a productivity coach.
Nice.
And as I continued journeying and at a certain point decided to scale, like we were saying, I needed to understand more about building a team, scaling a team, managing a team, how to create KPIs, how to hold them accountable, how to be a good leader. So I hired Shelly Warren of Stacking Your Team. That's the business that she runs, and a podcast actually as well. And so I learned from her about the leadership skills and the kind of leader that I wanted to be and the type of team that I wanted to be.
That's
and
great.
Currently, I am a part of several organizations that are more mastermind focused. For example, I am part of WPO, which is a Women Presidents Organization, which is a national organization. I'm part of the Philadelphia chapter. So I learn from other business owners who have scaled, who are in 7 figures in revenue from different industries. And we come together and we mastermind and we hold each other accountable and we share. But I'm also part of a window treatment mastermind group. And of course, all those folks. Julie Murphy, you know Jill Ballou, Leslie Excel, and Nikki Greenwood. So all of us are window treatment pros from different geographical areas, but running very similar businesses. And actually at this point, another business coach, a one-on-one business coach that I'm working with. Her name is Nicole Lachey Hall, and she specializes in hospitality industry, because for me right now, that is my next step and sort of the next chapter as I'm evolving myself and the business. That's the next level that I want to move into. So yes, at 20 years in business, and I don't remember a single moment that I haven't been without some sort of coach, for sure.
That's a mastermind class right there. You basically don't know what you don't know, right?
Yes.
And you can master your little world and be the best of it, but you don't know anything around you. You can be comfortable in your shoes and your life is good the way it is. Hey there, Roger here. Just a quick note. This episode is brought to you by blindsonline.com. If you've been thinking about new window treatments, I want you to check them out. I am a partner there, and I can tell you firsthand, the quality, the selection, and the service are the real deal. Listen, over 5,000 five-star reviews don't lie. Whether you are a homeowner or a trade professional, blindsonline.com has you covered. Easy process and affordable prices. And because you are supporting the show here, I want to support you as well. Use coupon code podcast at the checkout and you get 10% off of your order. There's a link in the show notes. And by the way, if you're getting value from the show, do me a big favor and share these with someone who needs to hear. Word of mouth is everything to me, and you know it. And I really appreciate your support. Now, back to the show. But if you want to scale, you need to know what's going on outside your little bubble, right? So having coaches is a great way to get this information from other people. They are not going to just tell you the good stuff. They're going to tell you the hard stuff, the things that you don't want to hear, the things that you need to improve. You're not calling a friend just to, talk the good things about it. They're going to really point it out. Vita, you need to do this. This is terrible. You need to move this way. They're going to bring resources, right? So you, instead of kind of figuring out things on your own, like you said, I can do my own bookkeeping for $30 and I'll save $30 an hour, but I charge $100 an hour myself. So I'm trading $100 in profit to $30 in savings. It's not exactly the smartest decisions as a business owner, correct?
Exactly. The coach, a good business coach, will hold you accountable, will support you when you need emotional support,
right?
And will also challenge you. And a good business coach will accelerate your learning. And for me, that's one of very, very important aspects of things. Having been in the business for 20 years, I don't know that I have 20 years more in this business, to be honest.
Right.
Maybe I do, maybe I don't. But I don't want to struggle through things. I want someone to show me the way and teach me how to do it so that I can do it without having to spend time to figure out how to do something, to bob and weave between mistakes and faux pas and, watch outs. I'm like, oh, went down this way and I said this thing. Nope, that wasn't the right thing today. Beep, 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 back up.
Right, exactly.
Went to this event. No, it wasn't a great event. Spent a whole day, maybe not wasting my time, but could have used my time productively someplace else. So all those, little things, a good business coach just accelerates your learning. And so instead of, even like with this hospitality chapter that I just shared, I could have done it on my own probably and taken the next 20 years to do it. But why struggle? Why reinvent the wheel, really, if somebody else can do it for you and can help you and support you. And I'm always happy to invest in myself, and I'm always happy to support financially another business person. So, I'm supporting her financially. She is helping me on that account. I just think it's a win-win for everybody.
It's funny. I just reminded, listen to you. I just reminded my first year in business, as we discussed prior, everything is so expensive in our industry. And for me, that was handy in installing a shade 20 years ago, and I charged $15 for something that took me like 15 minutes, right? And I say, man, 15 minutes for $15 per shade, I'm going to be rich. And I'm installing these shades for this old lady, and just going through my head in her kitchen and say, I'm making $60 in an hour in this kitchen, putting 4 shades up, right? And I feel like that lady read my mind, because out of the blue, she just looked at me and said, Roger, it's cheaper to hire a professional than try to do yourself. And I say, dang, that was almost 20 years ago, and I still remember. So it's a lot cheaper to hire someone to help you grow your business, to avoid the mistakes, than trying to save their fee. Oh, I'm going to save $5,000 not going with the coach because I can figure it out my own. Yes, but how long is going to take? The next 20 years, as you said, right?
Exactly.
You're trading knowledge for time, and your approach is perfect.
There's a great saying. So I'm originally from Ukraine. I was born and raised there. I came into the States when I was 15 years old.
Uh-huh.
And so I've been here ever since. But there's a great saying in Ukrainian, and it loosely translates into a poor person pays twice.
Interesting. It makes all the sense.
Right? And so what it means is a poor person, meaning somebody who's trying to save, somebody who is maybe doesn't believe in abundance the way you and I believe in that concept. Somebody who's just, really trying to save a penny. They will do their books. They will install their own blinds. They will do their own landscaping, or they will, whatever, clean their own house, whatever it is that you're really trying to save a penny on. And but if they're not professional at it, maybe not quite cleaning or lands, whatever you're not professional at, chances are you will not have done as good of a job. Chances are that blind would have fallen out of the window and you would have had to call a professional anyway. So not only are you paying for the professional installer, but you've also wasted your own time and money to do it to begin with. And so that's what the saying means: a poor person pays twice.
It's funny because I used to be the guy, before I have the abundance mind, I was the guy trying to save as much as I could. So I had to buy a computer, right? And I do my research. There's this computer for $1,000 that does everything. And there's this computer that just type words for $500. So, well, that's what I need. I'm going to buy the $500 computer. And my wife, no, you should buy the $1,000 computer, because if you want to send pictures down the road, you're going to be able to do with that computer. Say, I just need for words. I don't need that. And then I buy the $500 computer. And next week, I got a job or whatever that I need to send photos. And now my computer don't send photos. Now I need to buy the $1,000 computer. And I already spent or wasted $500 on the previous computer. Yep. So after 2 or 3 times on the same situation, I say, you know what? Let me listen to my wife. And I'm going to be much smarter, and I'm going to save money down the road. So we learned that lesson I learned that lesson the hard way, but it is an investment you do up front, and you not even know if you are going to need all the extra resources that you buy now. But that also brings the abundance mind, as you said. Now, because you have the resources, the universe help you bring in more work, because you don't plan those things. The universe somehow magically just bring things around. You got the
Mm-hmm.
resources. Now you have the job. So, oh, okay, I can do that because I have the resources, you
Yeah.
know?
Well, and it's okay. So let's go down that slightly woo-woo path because I will
Uh-huh.
totally go down that way with you. The same can be said about when you're trying to make the next big decision. So we can go back to my decision to scale. I explained it to you in a few sentences, and you have so astutely pointed out that even though it sounds great on paper, I'm sure there were many, many humps along the way. And absolutely there were. And one of the categories of those humps was the incredible fear inside me to do it. I was very fearful to move out of my house. I was very fearful to rent a space and have that overhead. Incredibly fearful of making my very first hire, incredibly fearful of starting a workroom. All of those decisions are accompanied by this big cloud called
Yeah,
fear.
right. Uncertainty.
And the uncertainty of it, the
Right.
responsibility for somebody else's livelihood, the responsibility of the additional burden of the financial overhead, all of that is incredibly scary. But the one thing that I have to tell you that kept me moving is faith that universe will provide. And for me, it's universe. For other people, it's God. For other people, it's whatever your belief system is. But there has to be an element of faith that it will happen because universe will meet you halfway. If you show it that you're willing to step out of your box, if you're willing to take that risk, then it will make things happen for you. I don't know how it works. I don't know why it works.
A
But
100%.
truth be told, when I got the space, when I hired the people, when I started the whole process of scaling, the business indeed started growing because I essentially kind of put myself out there into the world, the universe, and said in no uncertain terms, out loud and inside me, enter my journal, and to all of my friends and family and customers, and inside my head, that I am willing and capable and wanting and eager to grow my business, to have more customers, to have more projects. God help me.
Yes, I cannot agree more. I didn't know what it called, so I always go by the universe. And then when we decide to move to Florida, we didn't plan anything. I wasn't
Hmm.
Vita that has all these things in my mind, map it out in perfectly, scenarios. We just came back from Brazil in January. We say, okay, I'm tired of the winter. We gotta move. Within 3 months, we sold the house and moved to Florida, to Tampa, and I never been to Tampa in my life. Like we just blindly went. And now our friends, how you gonna do that? And I say, I don't know, but I have faith. It
Hmm.
will figure it out. So one person told me it's called the law of attraction.
That's
You
right.
throw it out and you just mentalize where you want to get. The universe gonna work its way and help you get there. So we
So
100%.
yeah, so there's a great book called, well, there's a movie called The Secret. I think there's a movie called The Secret that's from a
Mm-hmm.
while back, and there's another book that is escaping me at the moment. Maybe it's called The Secret, but it's about this. The author talks about creating a vision board and putting this
Mm-hmm.
specific house on the vision board. And then
Yeah,
some years later, he moves into some nth house of his. He unpacks the vision board and realizes that the very house, the very picture of what he put on his vision board is the house that he moved into.
that's crazy.
So sometimes things work out neatly like that.
Yeah,
Oftentimes they don't. But here's
right.
another example where a universe works in mysterious ways. So speaking of vision boards, I'm a big believer of those. And in January, beginning of this year, my team and I went through the whole exercise of creating a vision board for Vitalia Inc.
Nice.
It was, all of us around the conference room table. We bought a whole bunch of magazines and we just started paging through them and cutting out things that spoke to us based on the values of the company and based on what each of us wanted to do and accomplish and what types of projects we wanted to do, what kinds of styles of window treatments we wanted to do. P.S. A lot of traditional styles, a lot of swags and cascades and lots of trim. That's what we want to do. So I'm putting it out there into the universe, not just via vision board, but verbally too. Anyway, so there was a few pictures, Roger, of embroidered drapery. So be that like a crest on the pillow or like letters on like a logo on the cornice board or like just pretty embroidery on the drapery. Well, I don't again, don't know how it works, why it works, but we are currently in the process of quoting, estimating. We didn't quite get them yet, but we're in the process of working on two very large projects that have very large embroidery components as part of it.
Wow, that's great.
How does, I mean, I haven't done embroidery in, first of all, years. Second of all, if I've done any embroidery in the last 20 years, it might have been one, maybe two projects at the most, and very, very simple stuff. So how is it that you put it on the vision board, you put it out into the universe, you say to yourself that this is the type of life you want to live or the project you want to work on or the people that you want to hang out, you start thinking about it, and that is what you start attracting. And it just works in mysterious ways like that.
Positive thinking works if you work, with positive thoughts. Otherwise, doesn't make any sense.
Yes, the work component definitely has to be there for sure.
Yeah. Now, I know a story because, I'm in the industry. I heard from other people. And I know you share on Facebook and all of that, but some people may not know. Did you have a fire with your business?
Yes.
And
yes.
I just want to bring it up. Well, first, because I had 2 fires to my house. I know how it's stressful and nobody really think about those things prior. Plus, I want to share that with people that may think they are the only ones having problems with that business. And, this podcast is for a small business owner, so we can share that you're not the only one having, a tough situation. Other business owners go through that as well, and how do they get out of the hole? So do you mind sharing the story with us?
Gosh, yes, of course. So thankfully, I'm on the other side of it at this point by a few years, but I still remember that day vividly. It was March 5th of 2021, and we had just come off of the big COVID year, and I was driving into work. It was a Friday morning, crisp, sunny, beautiful, blue skies kind of day. And I remember thinking to myself, wow, COVID is behind us. We've made it. None of us lost our businesses. Right? Things are great. I recently hired a third person for an operations manager in the business. So I no longer had to do that role, or at least be as intimately involved in it. And I remember driving into work thinking, things are so good. I am finally there, or almost there. Things are working. Things are good. Things are great. And it was just, I was feeling so good and positive. And that day, we lost electricity. Actually, we've been losing electricity for a couple of days prior to that, but not as bad. We've lost electricity, then it came back, then we've lost the internet, then it came back, lost again. And I got so frustrated, I called my husband in. He went down to the basement where the electrical box is. He started turning off the breakers and just to reset them. And as he did that, the entire panel started going crazy, starting like fizzing and and making all sorts of noises, and sparks started coming out of it.
Wow.
And the entire basement filled with smoke within seconds. He tried using the fire extinguisher, and so here's a tip number one: never use a fire extinguisher on an electrical fire. It's not going to work. It produced like this awful noise. I started running downstairs to the basement. I'm not seeing my husband. I see this cloud of smoke, and I hear him screaming, "Call 911, call 911." So as I'm trying to dial the phone, like barely keeping it in my hands, I'm calling down to him like, honey, come on out. What's happening? I can't see anything. I don't know if he's hurt. I don't know if there's actual fire there or it's just the smoke. Don't know if anything's happening. I'm calling 911. I'm getting the fire department. And he finally emerges. It's like the scene from the movie, this guy emerges from out of the cloud and smoke up the stairs. It's like, get out of here, everybody leave. So everybody was in the office on that day. We all ran out. And the firemen arrived, but quickly left the building because during the electrical fire, there's no way for them to shut it off until the main electrical company, which is Pico for us, shuts off the main supply of electricity, which runs from the main road.
Right.
And so
did you have flames at this point?
So at that point, there were no flames because the firemen shut everything down. So there was no supply of oxygen into the house, into the building anymore.
Yeah.
Pico came in 45 minutes later. They shut off the main source of electricity. The firemen rush into the building, and that's when, as soon as you send oxygen into the smoldering place, that's when the flames come out. So that's when the whole thing set on fire. But
really?
Until then, the fire was put out fairly quickly because that's what these, truly heroes, that's what they're trained to do. What really made the most damage to the building is the 45 minutes while we were waiting. The smoldering inside is what ate at everything. All of our product, samples, furnishings, equipment, ceilings, furniture, walls, like everything was essentially destroyed. And then, of course, when firemen run in and they pour in water, they break through the walls and ceilings to make sure there's no trapped fire anywhere. And of course, that also damaged everything. So the place was deemed uninhabitable. We lost probably 90% of everything we had in that building. But thankfully, all the people were okay. We were okay. We were able to escape and get out. And that's essentially what happened.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. But I'm sure you learned a lot from that episode. And how did you recover? Did you have a plan? Did you have insurance? What would you tell someone renting a business right now, renting a building, and what would you be one advice for them?
Yeah. So the biggest advice I can give is go through your insurance plan and make sure that it has all the clauses that you could potentially need for something that you never think will happen to you. Be that the fire, or be that some sort of storm, be that
hurricanes,
flood, hurricane. Yes, you know all about that. Anything that you think only happens on the news to someone else, somewhere else in the country, to some other business, to some other folk, anything
not
that
to
has
me,
never
right?
happened to you. Exactly. It will, I mean, you're lucky if it doesn't happen to you, but chances are something of that sort will happen to you. And you have to be prepared. If you believe in insurance, then buy yourself a very, very good insurance policy. If you don't believe in insurance, then you have to have a really good financial nest egg put away to make sure that all the damages are covered. Unfortunately, in my situation, I did not have enough insurance coverage. And whatever I had was so little that it barely covered like 1 or 2%. So practically, I didn't get any sort of insurance help in recovering everything that we lost. So it was very painful. And I don't really have anyone to blame but myself, Roger, for this, because we've been renting the space since 2019, so it's been about 2 years. And when we moved into it, very high on top of my list, I had make sure you have the right insurance. Go through your insurance policy and make sure that all the clauses are there, all the coverages are there, all the limits are there, all the things. But as you scale and as you move into a new space, as you hire people, as you grow your business, the business was, really and then COVID happened. So there were so many things that happened during those 2 years that little tiny bullet points that had make sure you have the right insurance kept getting pushed down further and further on the list until it was so far down that I either forgot about it or it just wasn't on my radar anymore.
Right.
And so then the unfortunate, the tragedy happens, and then you realize how important something that you never thought was going to happen to you actually is.
Yeah, big lesson right there. So I had 2 fires myself, so I know exactly what you're talking about. The first one, it can happen to anyone but me because this is almost impossible to happen. And then when it happened, you realize, you could do something that you never done it. So for the people that are listening to the episode, make sure you visit your insurance coverages and even if you have it, sometimes it makes sense to buy additional insurance, as a trade-off. Like we're saying before, I save $100. I save $30 on my bookkeeping, paying, exchanging for my $100 rate. It's not a smart decision. So sometimes it's good to just put a little bit of money, buy extra insurance, just in case something happened. And if it doesn't happen, it's a write-off anyway. So it's a business expense. So I am so sorry, Vita, that you went through that, but I'm sure there's a lot of lessons that you saw the upside of this whole ordeal, I'm sure.
There's definitely silver linings, the biggest one of which is after I moved my entire team into my house and we worked out of my house for 1.5 years, I feverishly looked for a space. And ultimately, life turned me and guided me back to that same space that we rented. I started talking to the owner and ultimately bought this space from him. And not just we rented part of the space, we bought the entire building. And so we were kind of busting out of the small square footage that we rented. And chances are, if it wasn't for the fire, I probably would have stayed in that space and it would have gotten super tight. But I would have thought, no, we can make it a little bit more time. We need a little bit more business. We need that one more project, one more client. We can make it. But the fire really kind of expedited and sped up us getting the space that we really needed.
Yeah. So tell the universe they'll take care of you, right?
It sure does. In some mysterious ways, and it certainly throws a lot of curveballs at you when you least expect.
Right.
So, but ultimately, it does take care of you.
Moving forward, what do you expect Vita be doing 20 years from now in case you're not in business? So what would you be doing? Sipping margaritas?
So actually that is such a good and timely question, Roger, because somehow I am surrounded by all these early 50-year-olds who are retiring. And I'm like, how are you able to do it and why do you want to do it? And so I've been doing a lot of observing of those people and studying of their habits and what made them get here and how they've been able to do it and what their lifestyle looks like now. And what I can tell you is that I don't want to be like them. What I want to have is I want to be in the position where I still work, where that brain muscle is still exercising and where I still have meaning to life and legacy that I'm building. But what's important in that process is that I don't have to work. I want to get to a certain point, be that financial or sort of mental, where work is optional.
That's great.
Where where the business runs without me, that has been my goal for a while and continues to be. Where the business does not rely on me to run, where it's an independent entity that is not reliant on Vita, is not reliant on me being present there all the time. I am certainly there to give it some leadership, to give it guidance, to do some business development when it fits and suits the schedule. But the entity is so big and independent, and it has the right people in the right places. It has the right protocols and systems, and it has the right amount of built-in self-sustained marketing through referrals and other connections and relationships that I've been building all along, that it no longer requires my active participation. So that's the ultimate goal, where work is optional, where I am still needed, where I'm still building that legacy, and where I still feel like I have the goals and the meaning in life.
It's a great goal to have.
Thank you. Thank
Work
you.
is optional.
Work is optional.
I like that. So I'm gonna start working on that goal. Vita, has been a pleasure. You are extremely smart. You're very methodical, very thoughtful about everything you do. It shows on this entire conversation. So
Thank you.
as we close, I want you to leave a couple words to whoever is listening to the podcast. So you have struggles with your career. That's why you decide to have your own business. You have struggles with your business, with the fire. You came from another country, so I came from another country too. So I kind of joke that we see things greener than a lot of Americans don't see, just because we have a different point of view, different backgrounds. So what message would you leave to someone listening to the podcast?
It's easy to get caught up in somebody else's success, especially nowadays with social media, where other people's success is displayed so prominently for everybody to see. And of course, we all know that Instagram, Facebook, whatever other platforms there are, they are the highlights of successes, those that people are posting. It is very uncommon to post when you are down in the dumps. I have had instances where I worked on certain projects, very high-end projects or very high visibility projects, and I so wanted to get them, and somewhere in my head I thought that I did, and then I lost them, and that brought me down to my knees. Curled up in the ball, cried for days. It was hard to get out of it. There were certainly times that I wanted to cultivate a certain relationship, but that person wouldn't have anything to do with me, or a certain group that was very difficult to break into because of certain cliques or certain relationships that those people had already built in. And that took a ton of work. None of those things I or anyone would put on Instagram saying, life was really, really hard today. I got, gypped by a customer. I made a mistake. I ordered a whole house full of shutters, and instead of putting them as IB, I put all of them as OB. And now I am $30,000 in the hole. I mean, who puts up a message like that on Instagram, right?
Right.
But I bet you anyone who has spent 5 minutes in this industry can certainly cite a mistake of that kind of magnitude, or a relationship that they're having a hard time building, or an order that they certainly thought that they got but lost. And there are so many other challenges and tribulations that we all go through. And so instead of scrolling through all of our social media and thinking that everybody has it figured out, even some of the successful people, some of the ones that have been around for years, the truth is we all go through struggles. And for every company, business is an up and down type of roller coaster. Nothing is a straight line. And so keeping that as constant perspective for either a seasoned professional or a newer professional, that is what will keep you from the comparison game. And I find that it's the comparison game that really gets a lot of people down in the dumps. And so I don't want your listeners, Roger, to feel like they have to compare themselves, like they're less than, that they're not good enough, that everybody has it figured out except for them, because everybody's a mess at a certain level. Not just your one particular listener who is hearing this message right now. Everybody is a mess. We're all trying to figure it out. We're all working really hard to make it happen.
Yeah. I joke a lot of times, because if you want to be an overnight success, it's going to take 20 years to get to that point, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But people think it's just magically happens. So no, there's a lot of behind the scene. There's a lot of sleepless nights that you have to get things done so the next morning works. But nobody sees any of that. Right.
That's an invisible struggle. We all see beautiful window treatments, beautiful installations, beautiful houses, beautiful outdoor patios or pools, or views from people's installs. But it's the hardships that people don't see.
Yeah, we have a joke in Brazil, saying, you only see the beers that I drink, but you don't see the falls that I take, when you get out of the bar.
Right.
So,
That's
Vita,
exactly
it
right.
has been a pleasure. I really appreciate your time here. I learned so much, and I'm sure all the people learn as well with you. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much, Roger. This was a really great opportunity. And I really love your podcast take on how we all have certain struggles, and none of it is all unicorns and roses and butterflies. And so sometimes pulling back the curtain and showing that, I think, is really important. And that's exactly what you're doing here. And I really appreciate you for doing that and everything that you stand for.
My pleasure. I appreciate you, Vita. Thank you so much.
And that's a wrap for today. Hope you're leaving with something that sticks. If this episode resonated, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. For more information, follow Roger at rogermagalis.com and find the link in the show notes for a free chapter of his book, Nobody Told Me That. We'll see you next Sunday with no strings attached.